Hey, thank you. Hmm. It says you're muted.
How about now?
There you are.
Perfect.
Awesome. How you doing, Bucky?
You can see? Good.
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
There you go.
Camera might be turned off. Now I see you. Yeah.
Cool.
Hi, Bucky.
Hey,
Oh,
nice to meet you guys.
nice to meet you.
Pleasure's ours.
Jay's
How's it going?
good. Jay's gonna be doing the interview. I just wanted to pop in and say hi.
Okay. Cool. Well, thanks for all the help over the last couple days. I know it's been a interesting communication over the last couple minutes, but we got it all sorted.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we're here now. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I wanted to first of all just thank you, Bucky, for coming on and doing this interview. Now the purpose of it is really simple. It's for each EvoRoom experience that we create, we want to uniquely design it for the individuals in that group so that it's relevant to them and their lives. And the more relevant it is, the more impactful it can become for them.
Sure.
So this interview gives us the opportunity just to get to know you, better understand what your likes and preferences and all those things are, and what your dislikes are as well, if you want to share those. And then from there, we create and create the experience, and then match you with a group that is most conducive to your growth. So, if you wouldn't mind just sharing with me your background, your childhood, where you were from, and the challenges you faced in your life, and then we'll segue into what you want to accomplish in the world, and also I would love to answer any questions to finish off the interview. And we've got about 30 minutes to knock all that out, so
Cool.
I'd love for you to begin sharing when you're ready to roll.
All right. So my name is Dwight Buckminster Kalea Nui Nui Okino O'Neill. Come from a very mixed background. My dad's ex-military. Met my mom in Hawaii. Born in Hawaii, raised in Encinitas. Went back to go to school in Hawaii. I have two sisters. Older one, who's just recently 6 months pregnant with their first grandchild, which is awesome. And then I have a younger one that's married about a year ago. She lives up in San Francisco. So my mom is Japanese Hawaiian from Hawaii, and my dad is African American, Irish, Native American, and Scottish. And growing up in Encinitas, specifically La Costa and Del Mar and those areas, we grew up kind of really wealthy in wealthy neighborhoods and things like that. And grew up around a bunch of white people basically, which hey, it's all good. I don't have any weird stuff about it other than as an ethnic person growing up in that environment, it's just different. And obviously there's I don't necessarily attribute a lot of it's not all obviously environmental, but who I was at that time in my life, I took in and made meaning around that environment and how that reflected on who I was. So a lot of my younger life was spent having a lot of doubt about myself and not really being sure about myself and not really knowing who I was and trying to find myself in different groups and morphing my personality to fit different groups because I thought that would allow me to be more accepted and things like that, and just really being confused and distraught and a lot of alcohol, smoked a lot of pot in high school, but at the same time was also like captain of the football team, captain of the basketball team, super popular, would throw big parties, things like that, had amazing girlfriends and all this kind of stuff, But as far as who was I personally, not really in touch with it on a large scale, which is interesting because I grew up around parents who had been involved with transformational movement, and my father is a professional speaker. He did a lot of business consulting. He was doing firewalks in the early 90s. Around Deepak Chopra. Obviously, Jen works at the Chopra Center, but I grew up around those books. I grew up listening to Celestine Prophecy in the car ride to school, and things like that. Like, just really, those were my parents. Like, I was that little kid that was carried around workshops and all this kind of stuff. So I grew up around that, but I never had. It was interesting because in that time, part of my belief is that it was so much about new information, and hey, look, we're bringing this information to the West. Like, that whole movement was all about knowledge, and there's a lot of people that came from that in that movement that weren't really in the practice of it full-heartedly, as you kind of see more towards today, where that that type of education is really shifting, because the amount of knowledge is really shifting into like a practice base. Like, what is the practice, and how, as a participant in something like transformation, can I really develop my own practice to discover about myself? And that's the gift. It's no longer knowing about, like, hey, knowing about meditation or knowing about goal setting or affirmations. Everybody, it's all there. Everybody knows about it, and the gift is really, can we bring people through experiences that allows them to have enough insight about it that they can interact with that knowledge, so that something different comes out through their own practice, and it's an individual thing. So for me and my dad, it wasn't the practice of his relationship with his son, and again, from my perspective at that point, I was, I didn't feel that. So long story short is, I got involved with this program when I was 16, and then 18, which was basically a personal development program for kids. It's a program called Super Camp. It's still based out of Oceanside, and I've been working for them for about 15 years now. And it's about personal development. It's about academic success. It's geared specifically towards students. And not the first time I went when I was 16, but when I went when I was 18, and then even after that, we'd go for summers and work these long programs, and it was like, seminar style. You have 135 kids with 30 staff, clapping, jumping around. It's transformational. You're doing ropes courses, things like this, lots of group sharing. And I came integrated with that culture, but really where the shift happened for me when I was about 20 and I was going through junior college, and I said, what if I started to use this stuff in my life? What if, instead of just talking to kids about this, what if I actually started to use it? and that was the shift for me. I was freshly out of high school. It was my second year at Palomar College. I was playing basketball and had this opportunity to go to Singapore and work camps. But during that time before, I started applying the academic stuff as well as the life skills, and just had dramatic results. Had an opportunity. Was getting A's and B's in classes, and I remember walking into tests and getting A's. And I was that student that literally in fourth grade, I decided for myself that, hey, school's not for me. I'm too dumb to do this. I had a lot of challenges with spelling and reading, and I just remember this specific moment in fourth grade when I was it was a spelling test, and this word was shirt, and I wrote shit, and but not purposefully, right? I'm just retarded or whatever, and and the teacher's confronting me about it in this really aggressive way, and I don't know what it was, right? And she's like, I know you did this on purpose, blah 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 blah. And it was from that moment on, I'm like, fuck school, I'm over it, and that was basically my whole story until that moment where I started to practice this stuff, and it was the first time where I was holy shit, I can do this, I can be successful academically. And then the universe just shifted. I got accepted to University of Hawaii, and that whole time was a really huge coming of age for me, and just being back. We'd grown up going back and forth. Obviously, my mom's folks are out there and all that kind of stuff. But for me to move out there from Southern California and just let go of so many different things, there was such a dramatic difference to be around my people. I was like, fuck, everybody looks like me. This is great. So it was just connected in and tapped in, and I spent 8 years out there, and probably for 6 of those years, I was, or at least for the first 2 years, it was full disconnection. I grew my hair out super long, grew my beard, was surfing all the day, living in my van, living at the beach, going to school. Got basically straight A's all the way through school. Got my master's in education as well. But totally disconnected from my life back at home. Life in San Diego. Didn't talk to my parents, didn't talk to my family. It was just boom, full disconnect. And you know, when they talk about a walkabout or a coming of age or things like that was that time for me, where you know just got super connected with nature. You know, I don't know if you spend a lot of time in Hawaii, but for me, Hawaii is one of those places that um, you know, one of the words that they use is mana, which is like life force, and that thing is alive, fully vibrating, and I can, when I'm there, I just connect into it, and there's pieces of that is like the physical energy, but there's also the piece of that for me that's ancestral energy, and me tapping into that ancestral energy and being able to connect with that, which is interesting piece because there's so many, for me, there's so many ancestral lines that you get all the, and this might be going into like a interesting conversation. I don't get that it is, but there's so many ancestral lines that you get all the benefits of that, but there's also really challenges with that. So one of the things that I really studied in school, which was a huge part of my healing process, was I was mentored by a woman who was a big leader in the Hawaiian sovereignty movement in the 90s, and even into the late 90s and early 2000s, and she was the one who started the Hawaiian Studies program at the University of Hawaii. But her whole piece was this idea, or not an idea, but it was the understanding of colonization, and understanding of violence on through colonization, and you know the template of colonization and what it looks like with Native Hawaiians, with Puerto Ricans, with African Americans, with Native Americans, and all the signature telltale signs of colonization. And it just gave me this freedom to understand, like, wow, this is not something that I'm just going through. This is something that I've been a part of, and there's certain things that I can do, or there's certain things that I need to do. One was understanding it, but the other part of it was like the emotional release. And there became this time where I was like kind of like this rebel, you know. I was like, again, long ass hair, going to like sit-ins and listening to Bob Marley and fucking smoking weed and going to protests, and you know, there's that angst energy of like I just needed to get like that sadness and that anger out. And I had a few years in my life where I was just like, you know, into like not necessarily fuck the government, but like revolution, like being like about that, you know, inside of myself in like an angry way, you know, like in a very kind of pissed off way, because that's part of what needed to happen for me. But then things shifted, you know, obviously that part came through, and I started connecting more with nature and working abroad. I continuously worked summer after summer with this program called Super Camp, and spent a lot of time overseas, and graduated in 2006 with my bachelor's and my master's at the same time, or 2007 for my master's, because I kind of overlapped the curriculum. And then was basically teaching a bunch. I was teaching all over the United States as a facilitator with at-risk youth for the Super Camp program. So they have the private program, and then they have the school program, which is all governmentally funded. And the way that kids qualify for it is through different grants and things like that. But it's mostly kids who, you know, one of the major indicators is kids who eat school lunch or are approved for school lunch or federal lunches. So going to places like Mississippi, or you know, crazy places in the United States where you would never go, Covington, Mississippi, you know, town of 500 people, and working with kids from all these different demographics, and I did that for probably about 2 years, full on, and then in 2009 spent closer to a year in Asia and teaching international kids the same curriculum, and then traveling in my times off. So it would be a summer season, and then it would be a winter season, and then I would travel in between. And that's where I met Jen, working those programs, and we kind of fell in love. We worked in Singapore together, and then came back to the United States, married Jen. Basically a year after I met her, knew I was going to marry her within 2 weeks of meeting her, proposed within 6 months, and then we're married within a year. And then 2 weeks later, we moved to Bali, and we lived in Bali for. We just recently moved back, but we lived over there for 4 years. And I think that whole process, and especially living in Bali, was this process of coming into the, not necessarily a more feminine energy, but just understanding just more of a loving energy, and getting that space of like, yes, that angry energy was something I needed to go through, and there's still parts of me that, are upset and hurt and sad, and you know, the derivatives of anger. And at the same time, you know, I get the passion and I get the power of love. And you know, there's a lot of work that I was doing in Indonesia as far as we ran our own company out there. We started a property management company, and we had some villas that we rented and renovated and that we were working on. And then we had an events company. We were working with a guy by the name of Tyler Tolman, and we helped him. He was doing juice fast, and we helped him build a curriculum around his juice fasting. So we were getting heavy into like fasting and spirituality and cultural practices. And one of the biggest insights for me came from a 30-day juice fast, where it was all about emotional cleansing. I was doing colonics and enemas and journaling a lot and doing affirmations and certain movements, and it was all about letting this emotion, just letting it process. And got involved with men's group, which was awesome, and kind of led to a lot of that letting go and a lot of that healing and that coming through and coming into a more loving and a more not necessarily light, a heightened way of being and accepting people and understanding people and caring for people and caring for myself, and just a different energy, So that has been really powerful, and we were living over there. Things were shifting, and we were coming to work a summer at Stanford to do this program again, and we were going to be over in the States for about 3 months, and we were thinking about moving, and we didn't know what we wanted to do, and we fell back in love with California. We were, going Hawaii, San Diego, and we fell in love in California again. And obviously, we picked Lucadia. We live in Lucadia. We picked Lucadia because its association and its proximity to SRF, as well as the Chopra Center, as well as just the beach community. Because I said, if we're going to live in San Diego, have been here before, I said, we have to live west of the 5, and we have to live between Cardiff and Lucadia. And if we can do that, then I can do it. Because that's going to give me the social and cultural. It's not going to be so extreme. We were living in Indonesia, in Ubud, which was like, yoga capital, very culturally dense, and it's just different, totally different. We had this amazing place. It was absolutely incredible. Like, it was incredible. Incredible life. The things that we were doing, the traveling that we were doing was absolutely insane, beautiful, profound, insightful, and when you have that much free time because the cost of living is so low, there's just a lot of work that you can do on yourself. And so that's what we're big into. And I think just to get you an update for now, and I know it's kind of been a long conversation, but up to now, Jen works at the center. I write curriculum for the company that I've been talking about, Super Camp, and we're rewriting the entire school program to make it more relevant. 21st century learners. There's this thing called Common Core that's associated to educational programs as well as educational standards in the United States, and also taking that cutting edge of learning to the next level as far as, there's a lot of stuff that we do already as far as memorization, speed reading, things like that, but focusing more on the emotional environment as well as the internal environment, so talking about foods and talking about hydration and how that affects learning, focusing on specific brain waves and neuroscience and specifically practices that are associated to that. What else are we doing? Lots of stuff, man. So I'm rewriting that, researching and developing that as it goes. 21st century, so how do we incorporate, all this multimedia in a student-centered focus, so you're not just doing presentations, but you're having students use multimedia to research things and develop their own. There's a whole different way of obtaining knowledge or information now. So how do you integrate that in a way that's powerful and meaningful and focused, but around the student, so that you're not there's that perspective of 21st century learning means that I use YouTube, it means that I use Facebook, and it's yes, that's part of it, but how do you get students to be in that space of using those resources focused on the curriculum that you're presenting? So it's an interesting process. I've been doing that for about 4 months, and I've been working on this, these series of documents for a while, which has been awesome. And then the last thing I want to mention is that 2 things. One is that I host a men's group currently, and we do that every couple of weeks. And then I also host different groups on Meetup, whether that's goals and affirmations writing or personal development. I have a personal development course that I hold tonight. And then certified firewalk instructor, so that's something else that we were doing in Indonesia, and something I want to do more of in the future. Is part of the reason why I was excited about meeting you guys. And I forget who I met the first time. I think it was Megan Kennedy, and she was kind of talking about it, and I was telling her, yeah, dude, this sounds awesome. there's a lot of really cool things, and even looking at your write-up and talking about, the five fundamental, not five, you're talking about the fundamental principles of what makes up a human being, and you're saying emotion, physical, mental, emotional. Yeah, I don't know what all of them were, but a very similar model for me within the five-pointed star that I've been basing a lot of the stuff that I do around that, which is physical, mental, emotional, social, financial, and spiritual. It makes up the different components of a human being, and everybody's a five-pointed star based on the limbs, and those are places of development. So, yeah, just really excited about getting involved with a community. I think I watched the video where you're talking about the importance of community, and for me, it's just the same as well. It's like, one of the things that we focused on in coming here was building powerful community, because obviously when you have powerful community, it becomes a growth accelerant for every individual within that community. So excited about what you guys are doing, and excited to talk about it.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Bucky, for sharing.
Yeah.
There's so much that I can relate to, in your life, like, the star athlete, then working and doing all that, the temper, like anger, going through that, the emotions, and then the film production and getting into personal development, and growing up in Prince Ranch and going to high school there where it's an all-white community, and I'm the minority there, and then going to college in Georgia, all-black school, and then going, where there's spaces like all like me. So it's really interesting just hearing your story, and then like, wow, that sounds like my life. That's what I did, and I lived in Hawaii on Oahu for 4 years as well, and my father was in the Navy, and so there's a lot of things that we connect on that I can relate to you with, and it's just really awesome to have awareness and sense that connection. And again, I just want to thank you for taking the time to share yourself. And one of the questions that I have for you is what, you mentioned community that I'd like for you to share specifically. What is your interest in the EvoRoom?
Yeah, just community space. The gist that I got from it was April is that it's a combination of teachers and students in an environment that the priority is about personal development and growth. So those are basically my top priorities in life, is that even in our wedding vows, one of the biggest things was about personal development, growth, and how we can support each other to grow and hold each other accountable. And I just think that there's so much more available in community in that than trying to go off and do it on your own. And there's so much valuable perspective. I think one of the most powerful things from the men's group for me has been around being able to see yourself in other people's stories, and how it's so easy to do that, to see yourself in other people's shares, but it can be so difficult to see yourself in your own share. And as you're sharing and being in that process of reflection, it can be difficult to analyze or pinpoint what's going on for you because you're going through it, versus like if I get to share with somebody and I get to hear their perspective and I can see myself and I can grow through that. The other thing is I would love to be a part of a community where there's contribution. I'm also looking for spaces where a big part of my life has been around teaching and has been around sharing and sharing who I am. And I think authentically who I am is that I bring a perspective, and I'm a teacher in a lot of ways. So that's exciting for me to be able to potentially do that with you guys and potentially hold a firewalk, or talk about curriculum, or talk about developing curriculum, or writing curriculum, or I have similar ambitions as far as wanting to. I was just having a conversation with a buddy of mine this morning, and we were talking about what is your work that you do. And for me, my work, personal development is intimately part of who I am, and it's just who I am. There's regardless of what I do and where I'm going to be involved with personal development for the rest of my life. I'm going to be running curriculum. I'm going to be holding events. I'm going to be bringing people through experiences that's going to lead them through their own transformation, through reflection on themselves. I don't need to guide anybody. Nobody needs to hear anything from me. It's all about crafting experiences that allow people to see pieces of themselves and experience people's pieces of themselves that's outside of their day-to-day life, so that they can have some insight of what's going on for them. And and that's what I love. That's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about creating those opportunities for people to get that. and myself, clearly, because that's a that's a big part of my healing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're walking pretty much the same journey, similar journey. So our lives until now to actually be connected. Same aspirations, same intentions, uh, pretty much similar backgrounds, and I'm just, in gratitude to know that, we have this opportunity now potentially to work with each other, to enhance each other's lives, and also, of course, ripple that out to everyone else around us, our community, and out into the world and all of life in order to make an impact. About 6 or 7 years ago, I spoke out to the universe and said, I want to leave a legacy that inspires people long after I'm gone, like the Carnegies of the world, the Martin Luther Kings of the world, the John F. Kennedys of the world, and I've always had big visions of how to do that. And so I'd love to take this time and moment now to share what the EvoRoom means to me and why, I want to bring this to the world and share it with more people. And the whole premise behind it, I usually describe it in a metaphor and using the X-Men as, a metaphor to describe what the EvoRoom is. And you've heard of the X-Men before, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
And so, the story goes, you have Professor X that finds these mutants around the world, and these mutants have these really amazing gifts but don't really know how to use them to the best of their ability. So Professor X takes them back to his mansion, hones their skills, trains them, and then they become the X-Men, going off and saving people's lives and saving the world. So essentially that's what the EvoRoom has become, this place where we're seeking out individuals that have really amazing gifts, or maybe they don't understand their gifts yet because they're so filled with congestion from worries, thoughts, anger, doubt, whatever it may be. So initially the first step, if it so is the case, for an individual to let go of whatever they need to let go of so that they can tap into their potential, and then from there we create experiences for them that then take them to that place where they can unleash more of their potential. And the method that we do, or the method that we use, and the gift that I bring into this world is using fun and play as a way to accelerate that growth. We live in a time now where there are a lot of quote unquote problems in the world, environmentally, socially, economically, and especially with the environmental things going on with global warming, it seems as though that we don't have very much time before this place becomes an undesirable place to live. So what can we do to stave off these problems that we're facing? And what came to me in asking that question is that we don't go out and solve the problems themselves, uh, disease, wars and all that. I see it as we need to go within. Each individual needs to engage in personal growth and personal development, unleash their powerful gift to the world, and that's how we solve the problems of the world. Because the problems of the world are just really reflections of our collective being, right? And
Right.
and so the EvoRoom becomes a place where people can go to gather in community, because I understand, like you already do, like just playing football and being in the team environment, how much stronger you are within community than you are by yourself. And so we focus a lot on creating community. We've done such a great job using fun and play as a way to build connection, build community. And I didn't realize it until, actually just recently, but how effective fun, play, putting people in joy, putting people in their eyes, what lights them up is such an effective way for people to accelerate their growth. And so that's what I can bring, and what I offer into the EvoRoom is creating these really fun, unique experiences, not just feeding people more information. Because we have fucking tons of information. There's so much information out there, especially with the internet. But as you had alluded to earlier, how do we actually get to that place now where we're actually integrating that information and now being in such a way where it's in line with the things that we think and that we know about the world, our actions are in tune with that.
Yeah.
And so these experiences that we create are based off of, science, quantum physics, and psychology, and those things that I've learned, and experienced in the past, integrating that with the spiritual, more Eastern belief systems, and connecting to the higher source to create, these processes and these experiences that have just been very impactful for people. And so that's, the best way I could sum up what the EvoRoom is and what we offer to the world. It is that, and there's four components to the whole process. One of them being the physical experiences themselves, because it's really important for people to connect in the physical realm. Being we're in a world where everything's almost virtual now, people on their phones, text messaging, and you know, and online and all of that. So bringing people in the physical space to experience each other is really, really important in the process. Then, of course, uh, utilizing media and our incentive program that we're rolling out and community, all those four components come into play in the process. But then the five core categories that we train in are pretty similar to what you shared earlier. And we take the coaches and trainers and experts and put them through this process. Now, our big vision, what we're looking to do is to create an elite force for good. So you have the Army Rangers and the Navy SEALs, which are elite forces for war. Well, we're creating the opposite of that, the elite force for good. So the way that we're doing that is at the end of the year, we're gonna create an experience that's about 7 to 10 days long. We're not sure exactly how it's going to form yet, and inviting 100 people to a secret location somewhere around the world, where we're going to be hosting these experiences, and then the people that will be facilitating the experiences will be iconic, individuals, really influential, the masters of people in their industry. For example, Richard Branson will come in and train, in EvoRoom experience in leadership. We'll have LeBron James to come in and train EvoRoom experience in physical well-being. We'll have Beyonce come in and train EvoRoom experience in song and dance as a way to self-express, right? So on and on and on, these people that are at the top of their game and also very well known and popular who train and hone the skills of these 100 people. And then out of those 100 people, we're going to be observing how they use the training that we offer to them. And then based off their performance, we're going to be selecting 8 to 10 individuals that then become that elite force for good, which we're loosely calling the Evo Elite. And so how do we get to those 100 people that we're going to invite? Well, we're going to have threshold experiences like the one that you're looking to be a part of this past weekend. Also, multiple day experiences like the elevation experience we're creating at the end of June. So all these experiences where we're gathering 20 to 30 people each time, we're offering them experiences, gauging how they use their experiences, tracking their impact in the world, and then based off of their performance, we're going to select those 100 people, and then the process from there. So that is the big vision. Each year we will create another group, an elite force for good, and what the EvoRoom will do is back that group by offering them or giving to them resources in the form of money or relationships or whatever it takes, sending them on missions, covert missions around the world. When we select these elite, no one will know who they are, just like you don't know who the Army Rangers and the Navy SEALs are normally. And sending them out into the world, into corporations, into education, into wherever we need to send them in order to carry out these plans for the purpose of creating more harmony and unleashing and unfolding the potential of humanity upon the world. So that's the big vision of what the Evo is and what we're doing. And so the next step for us is we're creating, as I mentioned earlier, the elevation experience, which is a 2-day or 2-night, 3-day experience that we're doing here in San Diego. It's just outside of San Diego. We secured a property, a 7-acre estate out on San Vicente Lake to serve as a backdrop. It's a beautiful, luxurious place. We're taking 18 people through this elevation experience, and the whole purpose is to enhance their impact. We're looking for people that are already somewhat awakened, if you will, maybe are making an impact in the world already, similar to as what you're doing, and taking them through the transcendent leadership program that we are offering to them. And again, the basic attention is to enhance their impact, empower those individuals to empower others, and to teach them how to empower others on a bigger level. And we have all the resources around us to do that that we can offer to these individuals. Now it's our job to find the right ones that we are going to train and offer these resources to, so that they can go out to the world and enhance their impact and just do what is needed, to heal and to again um, unfold the potential of humanity. And then from there, that leads us to observing them, and then picking out the 100 people that we're going to invite to the Evo brand, which is the second Independence later this year. So there you are.
Awesome. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's as I know you already can see, like it's really fulfilling, and not only that, like all throughout my life, I was that kid that got detention and got shunned because I was the kid in class playing all the time and just talking to people and causing mischief or whatever. But that's who I am. I love to have fun. I love to have a good time. I love to entertain. I love to be entertained. And not until now I realized that that is a gift that I can share to the world when combined with personal development, because it's out here in the West, in Bali and in some places, it's easy for people to have that conversation and want to get involved in personal development. But when you go out into the middle of America, people aren't having these conversations. They're not really interested in personal development. So how do you get them interested? And the way that I see is through pop culture, right? And this is the reason why we want to have the Beyoncés and LeBron James and Richard Branson of the world, because obviously they're already influential to the youth of today. So if we leverage them and get them involved in the conversation, going through these experiences and facilitating the experiences, then we can make personal development cool. And when it becomes cool, then we get the masses involved, popular culture involved, the youth involved in this change, and that will bring together everyone that we need in this community towards that shift that we're already making, and will help, I believe, make the tipping point that we need to really make a really difference in the world. So that is what the Evo represents. You'll notice on the website, we're not talking about spirituality. We're not talking about religion. We're not talking about the higher power stuff that may turn off people in the masses or the popular culture communities. And that's intended for a reason, because we do want to reach those individuals. We want to bring them into the fold to engage in personal development, because that's the way we see that these problems that exist in the world can be solved. And that's what I do really well. I've been, my background's in the entertainment industry as and also as a football player, professional athlete. So I get that world, I've booked Beyonce for big, huge, shows and events and stuff like that, and other celebrities. So I understand how to connect with that culture. And I always wanted to know for myself, like, why was I even in that, industry? Because it wasn't making an impact, and I was always wanting to make an impact in the world, but now I get it, because I get how to reach that demographic. I get how to create the red pill for them to swallow and to come into the matrix and really get understanding of who they are and how to really affect the world in a really positive way. So that's the process of how we do things and why we do things.
Cool. Get it.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, Bucky, I really have a greater understanding of who you are, and I think that you would be, one that would take a lot from the experience, and not only that, but you could turn around and, as you just mentioned, facilitate experiences as well. Like we're on the hunt for those individuals, that we can bring to the Evo brand that will sit alongside those celebrities and iconic individuals and train these 100 people. So not only are we on the hunt for people that will become the Evo elite, but we're also on the search for people that can facilitate those experiences and uplift humanity. So I see you, in a sense that you might be one of those individuals. So I would love to invite you into the Evo room, have the experience, to see how we deliver it into the world, and then turn around and potentially facilitate an Evo experience as well.
Cool. I'd love to. So
go ahead. What was your question?
What's the information that I need from you?
Well, the information that you'll need, what I need to do next is we're in the process of selecting the group that will take through the next experience that we're creating, which is at the end of July, June 27th, 28th, 29th. But first, I want to know, are you open for that, interested in that? And then from there, what I would do is gauge based off of these interviews, like which individuals are the most conducive to creating the most impactful experience for each other, and kind of like matchmaking, if you will. People that are most like-minded, and then in that matchmaking, y'all will know, okay, is Bucky the right person? Is Jackie, who I just did an interview with, the right person to bring into this group? And then from there, I'll contact you and let you know, Bucky, I think you're right on the money with this group. I'd love to invite you to have this experience, and that's how the process goes.
Okay. So what are the dates again?
The 27th, 28th, and 29th of next month.
Of July, right?
Of June.
Oh, June. I'm in San Francisco that weekend.
That weekend? Okay.
Where's your here you are. Yeah, I'm in San Francisco. I'm doing I've never done a Tony Robbins event, so I'm volunteering for the Unleash the Power Within event, and that's that weekend. So yeah.
So what I'll do then is we're creating the next EvoRoom experience for July. So when that date becomes solidified, then I'll share it with you and see if you're available for that one, and then based off of what your availability is, we'll know exactly when to reach out to you and what information is done.
Okay. Cool. Outside of this, we should get together, man.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. So actually, let me. I think we have your phone number. We do have your phone number. So I got your number.
Yeah.
Shoot you a text message.
Okay.
Just sit down with you. Just have some lunch.
Yeah.
And, have a deep in our conversation, and potentially just start the conversation on the facilitation side of things as well.
Yeah.
Share with you things that we're doing, and see what unfolds from there.
Yeah. Where do you live currently?
In Cardiff.
Okay, cool. Right down the street, classic.
Not too far from this. Well, April actually works at the Chopra Center, which Jen works at as well.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah. So, again, some.
Uh-oh. You just checked out. What did you say?
I was just saying it's really cool to see even more similarities between our lives and the people that surround us, like work at the Chopra Center.
Yeah. Conscious life crafting, man. That's what I'm talking about later tonight.
That's cool. Well, awesome, Bucky. I had such a pleasure getting to know you. I'm really excited to invite you into the EvoRoom and see what you do with it and what you unleash into the world after having the experience, and also, of course, having you come in and facilitate an experience. I've never done firewalking myself intentionally. So I'd love to have that experience myself, and then I'm sure that many others would like to have that experience as well. Something that would be unique to the EvoRoom and people and the participants that have experienced it.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Such a blessing. Thank you.
You're welcome, Bucky. Well, enjoy this beautiful day that we're having. I know you're experiencing the same thing I am, and we'll keep you out a text. And we'll be connected really soon, okay?
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Have a great day, man.
You too. Thanks, brother.
Yeah.